Well, with just weeks to go before major activities kick off, Pride Toronto may need to rethink the size and scope of this year's festivities due to rising costs. Now, there are plans for Pride events across a wider area of the city, and there are also increasing safety concerns surrounding large public festivals and the 2S LGBTQI+ community, which is contributing to the hike. And for more on this story, we are joined live by Sherwin Modest. He is the Executive Director of Pride Toronto. Sherwin, thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
So when we're talking about price hikes, I mean, that's something relatively normal, especially if you take a look at the size and the growth of Pride Toronto. But taking a look at these numbers here, insurance ran your group $60,000 in 2022, and now you're being quoted $278,000. That is quite the jump. And so what is your reaction as far as how Pride will continue to go and move forward if you continue to deal with these huge spikes in insurance costs as well as costs for police?
No, and it was very shocking for us. Again, as an organization that puts on one of the largest festivals in Canada, one of the largest prides in the world, when we received that huge increase, I mean, we honestly thought it was a mistake and went back to our broker and they said, this is it. This is the reality that we're facing. Major festivals are being hit really hard by insurance. So we were shocked, and unfortunately, that's one bill that's have already been paid.
Right. And so that was just insurance. When it comes to Toronto Police, it was a similar estimate in 2022, $62,000 for paid duty officers. That number now up to $168,000. And so has there been any sort of conversation with Toronto Police, and what's their response to this?
So TPS, again, and that's 168 plus HST. So when you add HST to that, it's over $180,000. And the mere fact that, this has been proposed to us, and we're told that if we don't pay this, then we do not have paid duty officer. That's over 100% increase. Yeah. And again, for a festival that relies 95% on sponsorship, we strongly believe that it's the responsibility of all three levels of government to come together and support and provide safety and security for all of its citizens. And that being said, we saw the increase that the Toronto Police budget got. And we believe that some of that money could be going directly back to providing security for us. There is also the notion of the increase in size of the footprint. Last year, we were at Nathan Phillips Square. It was not our main stage. So the size of the footprint have not increased. However, we have had to make sure that we're creating as much space. Over 2.4 million visitors were downtown last Pride. And we want to create an environment where everyone can feel safe and feel welcome. With this cost, it's just not possible.
Absolutely. Safety and feeling welcomed. So my question to you then, I'm sure no doubt that, yourself as well as your fellow organizers are feeling quite stressed out about this situation. So what is the alternative? What if that money cannot be, or something cannot be done? What sort of scale backs would Pride Toronto have to do, or what would Pride this year look like?
So we've been having some very good conversations with all three levels of government, and we're hoping that the government will step forward and do what is right and contribute towards the increase in costs. If that fails, unfortunately, our program is where we're going to see the cuts. We would see less of the 400 plus artists that is expected to be on our stages. That number will decrease as a result of us having to take up costs in other areas.
And are we also looking at the potential of cutting back, say, events leading up to the actual weekends, something like that?
It's, at this point, where we're looking at most of our cost savings, it's the number of artists. So, and again, one of the things that we heard loud and clear last year was that a lot of the queer artists were looking forward to Pride to be able to make some money during the festival weekend. So we're now going to have to go back to local Toronto artists, local Toronto drag queens and drag kings, and DJs and say, unfortunately, we will not be able to book you. And again, these are only two areas. We're not even talking the increase in cost of everything else that puts the festival together.
Sure, and we do have about 30 seconds left. I want to ask you one last quick question. Based off of this increase, we're talking the significant jump from 2022 to 2023. What's your concern looking ahead to 2024 if the numbers continue to go in this direction?
So my concern is that, we're putting prides out of business, and I will ask all levels of government to look at what happened in Winnipeg yesterday, where the Conservative provincial government provided core funding to Winnipeg Pride. So this is a good start for us.
Okay, Sherman Modest, the Executive Director of Pride Toronto, thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.